Welcome to the Sideline. I'm Andy Katz. Well, this is going to be a home for a lot of original content in college sports and beyond. Now, of course, you're going to get a lot of that similar content that I produce for NCAA platforms, for the Big Ten Network, and other places. But I needed a home for a lot of those interviews with the newsmakers in this space. So where are you going to find it? Right here at the Sideline. Let's get to it. And welcome, everyone, to a preseason back-to-school chat. I'm Andy Katz. Please be joined by UCLA head coach Mick Cronin. And Mick, this is going to be year 2 in the Big Ten. But prior to that, you've got a loaded non-conference slate. You've got a great roster coming in with the Mountain West Conference Player of the Year, Donovan Dent, leading this crew. Let's go 30,000 feet here, because I feel like you've gone a little bit different directions of these rosters the last couple of years in this changing environment. I could be wrong, but I kind of feel like you hit a sweet spot this year with returnees, transfers, experience. It just feels like this may be the right combo. Am I right or wrong here?
Yeah, I think if you were to ask any of us, which I know you're doing this with a lot of guys, right? You would like to have some returning players, Sky Clark, Tyler Bilodeau, Eric Daly, that are, really good players. And senior, junior. And then you'd like to be able to bring in some elite players and older players in the portal, right? And I think that's the sweet spot you're talking about. I think you look at some teams like a Florida last year, very old in the backcourt, very deep on the front line. So we tried to get Xavier Booker, Stever Jemerson, Anthony Peoples, Tyler's back. Tried to get a little bit more physical and bigger body guys for the Big Ten, where we can move Tyler to the 4. I didn't think we were big enough last year. And then obviously, look, you can get one of a couple returning All-Americans in the country, and Donovan Dent. He's going to compete for National Player of the Year. I mean, he's just that good. So I think that's the sweet spot, right? You can get some elite guys that are older in the portal, but have some returning starters.
And then
because look, if all the guys with new jobs, right? The guys with new jobs, their whole team leaves. They have nobody returning. Right. And then, some of your better teams, guys go pro. You have, from the guys going pro, because your better teams, usually guys don't leave, but they go pro or they graduate. With us, our best players were underclassmen in Tyler, Eric, and Sky. And then we have a great young player in Trent Perry that stayed with us. So there is a sweet spot that you kind of alluded to, I think, to be a really, really elite team, that you have to have some good returning players. Now, obviously, like Matt Painter's got 2 of the best in the country returning at Purdue, but we have pretty good ones here.
So the one group we didn't mention is, where do you put in the freshmen into that third group of returnees, transfers? You need freshmen, but you can't be all freshmen, so where do they fit into this?
Well, in this era, I think, it's you got to decide what flavor you like. I'm from Cincinnati. Best ice cream in the country is Grater's.
Yep.
So for me, you would know that. I don't know if you went when you went to see your son, but Black Raspberry
The line was really long.
Is the greatest Grater's ice cream. It's unbelievable. So, but you got to know your flavor. And for me, I think it's just common sense that you want to get somebody that you think is going to stay in your program, or you're going to waste a whole lot of time recruiting them. You're going to waste a lot of money paying them. Okay. Unless you can get a guy that's a top 10 pick in a one and done scenario. But he's got to be able to impact winning in his 1 year. If he can't impact winning in his 1 year, again, you're wasting a lot of time and money. So the sweet spot for freshmen is trying to find that guy that's that fits your style, and you got to be honest about that. Is he a good fit? And I'm old now. I know what I like, and does he want what you bring to the table? So he's got a chance to be around. And then again, that's how you have some returning guys. So retention is key. But I think you got a better chance to retain players if you recruit the right ones. If we don't just grab and stab. I know they went to 15 scholarships. I think we used 12. Our really used 11. We kind of took a guy for practice. Again, I don't believe just grab and stab and get 15 and see who works out. And I just think it just doesn't make any sense. So I'll try to be real pointed and who we target in the world of freshmen. Versus the old days, you had five seniors, you had to sign five freshmen, right? Or you had three at UCLA, you got three seniors, two guys going to go in the draft, you got to sign five freshmen. Now with the transfer portal, you may need to sign one freshman.
And so, what was your thought process with this roster?
I think when we were able to get Donovan Dent and we were able to, first of all, retain the guys that we thought were our best players. That was number one. And it's crazy, people's your season is draining, the preparation, everything you go through, and then you get beaten in the NCAA tournament. We were in Lexington, we got knocked out, and you get home and you immediately have to put your other hat on and re-sign your players. I mean, and it's like, guys, you start the meetings the next day at 8 a.m. So for us, retaining Sky Clark, Tyler Bilodeau, and Eric Daly, and then we were immediately able to get Donovan Dent not long after that. And then it's okay, we got a real chance now. So let's get as old as we can. Xavier Booker, Steven Jemerson, Anthony Peoples, Jamar Brown. 3 or 4 of those guys are graduates. And try to put together. I'm a big believer in character. I think it matters. So, and nowadays, if you're going to pay guys, I think it's really important that you pay guys that have some character, because immature guys can't. They struggle with the money. It's hard. It's hard for them, and whether they're college basketball players or 40-year-olds that are still throwing parties and buying bottle service in Vegas. Immaturity struggles with a lot of money. So you don't want to put I mean, it's a real thing. So, I mean, just a little insight into kind of how I think. So we tried to get old and really put a team together. Jamar Brown, shooter, tough defender, totally trust Marvin Menzies as a friend. He's my kind of guy. Same big, strong kid in Steven Jemerson. It gives us some size. Obviously, Xavier Booker, we had a lot of heart-to-hearts about becoming a big man and transitioning and to the 5 spot and trying to resurrect, his career. So once we got Donnie Dent, though, it became, we got a real chance. When you got a guy's got a chance to win National Player of the Year, I think we got 3 other guys that could be all Big Ten. So now it's trying to get pieces around them and get the right fits and get them as old as you can get them.
So a couple of years ago, you had a heavy international roster. Again, maybe it was need, timing and all that. Where are you right now in when and how many, like when you should grab an international player and how many should be on the roster?
Yeah, I don't really look at it. I just look at a player as a player. I think now because those guys are coming over at 21 years old, it's more attractive. I think that's what you're seeing, because there's a gap from 18 to 21 in Europe. You're not good enough to help FC Barcelona. You're not good. You're not good enough to help Real Madrid, or you're not even good enough to help teams that people wouldn't know, Girona or Valencia, really good teams, or Panathinaikos. So they're younger players in their system. These teams have systems. So they're junior teams. Once a kid's he gets past 18, the gap 19 to 21, he's not good enough to help the big team. So he's not making any money. They're not going to pay him much money. So he can make way more money and come over here, and play against guys his age. So that's what you see, the influx of guys that are, when you see a guy coming over at 20, 21, he's only got maybe 2 years to play, but he's better off here than sitting on the bench over there. Or they farm him out to what they would call second or third division teams. and he's only making 75,000. Where the kid comes over here, he's making $500,000. It just wasn't in the cards for us this year. Nobody was really the right fit for us. We were able to get who we wanted. But it's not like trust me, we went over a lot of those guys, looked at a lot of those guys. And the problem for us was we put our team together right away. Most of the international guys you're alluding to are getting picked up in May, June, and July because their season doesn't end until late May. And then they get into opt-outs and buyouts for the younger players that come over. So it's gotten more complicated. It's definitely part of it. And it's tough. You kind of got to know ahead of time if you're going to do it, because you got to hold on to a spot for a guy, because usually he's not going to be able to do it until June because he's still playing in May. So if you can get a guy from a college team that's in the portal, why would you wait and then visit and try to beat 3 other teams for the 20-year-old guy from Europe? So a lot goes into it, buddy, as you can see, but there's more guys available though because of the European influx. But they all go to Illinois.
Back to Donovan for a second. Look, I'm not breaking news by saying timing is everything, but here's a SoCal kid. If you told him junior, senior year in high school, here's UCLA, he takes it in a second.
Yes.
The problem with that is he might not have been ready for that.
Maybe.
And I think he would admit that at that point in his life. So it doesn't happen. He doesn't get recruited. He goes to New Mexico, which, by the way, he's playing behind Jalen House initially, and he waits his turn. And then he blows up, player of the year, takes the baton. They get, within a whisker of the Sweet 16. So the timing, now it makes sense. From your vantage point, because you've been in now Southern Cal a number of years, how much does a player like him, the journeys are never straight, that it worked in his favor to go in this direction and excel at a different program to then come back to UCLA in the SoCal?
I think you make an interesting point. Like you said, that it might not have been the best move for him if I would have offered him and signed him out of high school. How would that have worked for him? Tough to say. I know I wish I would have. That's easy for me to say now.
Right.
But there was a lot involved in that. We had an early commitment in that class at point guard in Dylan. So, and then it was a COVID year. His senior year was COVID in high school. So that summer, there wasn't much going on. So it's not like I got to go see him all summer.
And by the way, then he may deal with the pressure in that moment of taking the Tiger Campbell baton, and maybe he's not ready to be equal to Tiger Campbell, at that moment in his life. Sure.
And if my buddy Richard Pitino was watching, he would just say the whole key was that he played for Richard Pitino, that he played for me. I turned him into what he is. So, but there's a lot of truth to that. I think, right place, right time. I just talked to my team about this today, Andy. You can't. I think the biggest mistake people make in life, especially basketball players, because of rankings, is that they compare themselves to guys they played against in their class, in AAU, in all-star games, high school, what have you. And I was ranked higher than this guy. Well, everybody's race is different. And you just got to run your own race and be as good as you can be and get better. And I think, Donovan's being around him now all summer, he's so mature and he's intelligent that he didn't think about, man, I wish I was at UCLA. He was just trying to be great at New Mexico. And, he's probably, like a lot of people said, well, why didn't he get in the portal the year before? Well, he was a loyal kid. Now he and obviously with Richard leaving, it was a lot easier for him to do it. I think getting too many of these young kids get caught up in I got to go to school X out of high school, to your point. And because, David went there, Jim's got to go here. And their parents, he's ranked here, well, he should go. Instead of just trying to figure out what's best for you and your son and run your own race, instead of trying to, as they say, keep up with the Joneses, which you cannot do, Andy, in LA. I'd be broke. Okay, just so you know, I am broke for where I live. But people try to keep up with the Joneses, buddy. And I think that's where mistakes start to happen and decisions. And Donnie didn't do that. He picked the best school for himself, and then he knew we wanted a point guard, and he tried to, and we had players back. And so him coming here wasn't just come home. He knew about Eric Sky. He's known Sky and Tyler. Okay, and we talked to him about we were going to get a couple big guys or athletes that could be rim run and catch lobs. I mean, there was pointed conversations to, picking UCLA, and a lot of NBA scouts told him they thought he needed to become a better defender and cut down on his turnovers, and that's why he went on the draft board. And he thought I could help him with that. So, his maturity is one of his biggest. I mean, obviously his speed with the ball, but his maturity in his decision making is picking New Mexico, now picking UCLA for the right reasons, not just because it's home. I think it is a big reason. I think he's got a chance to compete for National Player of the Year.
Yeah, I'll just tell you, like in my world, my dream growing up was to write for the Boston Globe because I grew up in the Boston area. And if I go to the Boston Globe right out of college, and there was like an all-star media group at the time there, I'm not covering the Final Four in the early 90s, okay, because I'm low man on the totem pole. I'm probably covering high schools. I go to Albuquerque and Fresno, okay, and I'm the only reporter there covering college basketball, so I'm covering the Final Four. And that springboards me to ESPN because I've already been covering the Final Four for 8 years before I even get to ESPN. So a lot of times when you think that, oh, I want to go up to the top, but you're going to be so low down there, you may not work your way up. But if you go somewhere else and prove yourself, by the time you get to where you want to be, you're already established. And
yeah,
sometimes players don't think like that, but I know, like my own personal experience, that certainly worked for me.
Oh, buddy, but the best thing ever happened to me was being the head coach at Murray State. Which would, like, and people that don't know, this, is it's like coaching at Kentucky at the low level. Okay. Total support, total community love for the program. I mean, it's hard to fail at Murray State. Almost literally, you're set for a young coach. Now, this changed because they've changed conferences. But when they were in, my days in the Ohio Valley Conference, Scott Edgar got Duquesne, Mark Gottfried got Alabama, Mick Cronin got Cincinnati, Steve Prohm got Iowa State, Billy Kennedy got Texas A&M. I mean, it's such a great, great job. Versus, if I'd have stayed with Coach Pitino and tried to get a bigger name job, that I wouldn't have been ready for it, by the way. That's the other piece of it. You name it, you probably wasn't ready for it. You could make mistakes and say dumb things when you're working at Fresno or coaching at Murray State, that if you're doing it in LA, it could cost you your job, and it's going to get pointed out a lot faster, right? So a lot more forgiving. And, not a lot of people were reading some of the dumb things I said that were written in the Paducah Sun back then.
All right, a couple other quick things here. Big Ten. Look, you had some games you were contracted to, but clearly this non-conference, you're still playing elite teams, but you're not going across the country to do it. What was your mentality in making sure you have the games against Arizona, Gonzaga, and big time non-conference games without having to go a couple of time zones?
Yeah, it's just you guys just try to protect your players. Because look, you got to go back for the Big Ten tournament, and you don't know where you go for the NCAA tournament. Because last year after it all, I'm worried about March. I coach at UCLA. So you got to go to Indianapolis, fly home, turn around, and when you land, you find out you're going to Lexington. So you can't just sit there because you don't know you're going to end up in Lexington, or we'd have just stayed, right? So you got to try to be smart about it, protect your players. Here we do go to school, so I know it's everybody makes money now, but we do go to school, and our guys go to one of the best schools in the country, and it's we don't have a lot, very few online. We had none before COVID here. UCLA and Stanford were the two that had none. So academics matters here. So the more you can lessen travel for your players, um, that it just makes sense. The other thing is adding a couple Pac-12 schools. Our fans want that. And the
Mhm.
other thing you got to factor in when you're coaching is you got to try to think a little. You got to do what's best for your program. But if you can do both, hey, it's our fans want to still play some Pac-12 schools. So not only we play Arizona in the Intuit Dome, we got Arizona State at home, we got Cal at the Chase Center. So our guys,
ACC school.
yeah, I know ACC school in San Francisco, where our guys get to play at the beautiful Chase Center where the Warriors play. So, again, trying to keep them in mind, keep the fans in mind, they can make all of those games. They can even get to Seattle, and stay on the West Coast time when we play Gonzaga, at the arena up there.
All right. So what did you love the most? We don't have to go into any negatives here, but what'd you like the most about competing in the Big Ten?
The challenge of it, reminded me of my days in the old Big East. I think it's very different than the Pac-12 because for two reasons. We played everybody twice. And then you also played on the same days, which I thought really hurt our exposure because your whole team, your whole conference is playing on Thursday night. So there's 5 days and Sunday or Saturday, I'm sorry. So basically there's 5 days a week where there's no Pac-12 basketball. And meanwhile, the Big Ten's playing 6 days a week, every day, and sometimes 7 days a week. I think we played on every day of the week last year because we played Northwestern on a Monday. So the exposure again for your players and your program is better. I think the challenging thing is going against for me, is going against new coaches. And hey, look, you only live once. It's neat to be able to play in some arenas that you've never played in. As a coach, like playing in Assembly Hall was really. I mean, I coach in Pauley Pavilion, so I hear this a lot. I get calls. People, want to play me a bye game. I want to coach a game in Pauley Pavilion. But I'd say Assembly Hall was the one for me. Probably growing up in Cincinnati, my dad being a Bob Knight guy, that was the coolest one. But just those different experiences, pretty cool. And obviously the challenge of coaching against different guys and so many with 18 guys in the league, as far as 17 new, and we got new ones this year. So that's as it's a challenge getting to know the guys you're going against, feel like your preparation is what it needs to be.
All right, last couple very quickly. Coach's challenge. What do you think of it?
You better save it, I think. You better save it. That's how I look at that. It's just like timeouts, right? You better save it. Unless like I see something, a guy step out of bounds right in front of me and I know I'm going to win, but you still only get one. So you got to save it because game could be on the line. And it's just, for instance, it could be the difference in your best player fouling out of a game or not. So I think you got to save it for significance. I know, look, I'm a realist. I know the whole thing is about keeping. Now, I think the problem I don't like is we've now eliminated the officials being able to go to the monitor and get the out of bounds call right. There's good and bad to that. You want them to get that right. But the problem is when they don't call a foul, the guy it's my ball. The guy fouls me and it's off my fingertip. They didn't call it. And the old school refs, they didn't want to call the foul, so they just gave you the ball back. In the old Big East, Eddie Corbett, it wasn't that bad, white ball. Even though it might have been out on me, the guy fouled me. He didn't want to call the foul. Now you go to the monitor, it's out on me. So, so you got to call every foul. So now they can't go to that monitor on out of bounds plays in the last 2 minutes. So that's where you got to save it for. And they better call the foul, because now they can't change the call and I don't know if it's reactionary, Andy, but everything's about keeping these games in a 2-hour window for
Oh,
TV.
yeah.
You know that.
So to
Maybe-
that point, it won't happen this year.
Yep.
Quarters or halves.
I don't see any argument for quarters. So when your argument is, well, that's what everybody else does. Okay. Well, if Steve Jobs would have thought that, the world would be different. The world would have never changed. And, you know, if Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer would have thought that, like, to me, that is the most unthought out answer in the history of answers. That's what everybody else does.
Well, that's the answer I've gotten.
I know, because I hear it all the time. Is it better for men's college basketball? That's all we should be asking ourselves. Anytime we decide on anything.
Well, to your point, if it was and TV was on board, it already would have happened.
Correct. That's why it's a comical argument. It would lengthen the game and hurt the 2-hour window, so it's not going to happen. And
Right.
but why should it happen unless it's better? Now, the only argument would be the resetting of the fouls.
Yes.
You know,
And the last one that's sort of been in conjunction, again, not happening now, maybe in the future, is should they advance the ball like the NBA?
No. Or if you want entertainment, go to the movies. I live in Hollywood. There's all kinds. They're making, you know, nowadays you don't have to go to the movies, right? You're streaming. Then there's 87,000 shows streaming. If you want entertainment, go to Netflix, Amazon. Fall's coming up. I'll give you, you know, season 2 of Landman, season 3 of Tulsa Kings, the only 2 shows I watch. Okay. Don't do things for entertainment. Don't tell me that my team has earned the right to be up to over 39 minutes and 55 seconds. And now the other team gets to advance the ball because it's more entertaining. Because again, that's the only answer. The NBA did stuff because they have 82 games. They were struggling. Okay, don't call fouls. Make the game more entertaining. You know, can't touch anybody. All you got to do is ask Luke and them guys. Read, it's easier to score in the NBA than anywhere else. They needed to generate more interest, sell their stars so they could get 40 a night. That's great. That worked for them. You know,
Don't change it for us. All right, we're out of time.
Does it help us or not, buddy? It's real simple. And really, does it help Andy and Mick? Because that's really all that matters.
That's right. Thanks, Mick.
See you, buddy.
Thanks for watching and listening, everyone. And as always, you can follow all our social media content at the Sideline with a K. Our content appears on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and of course, YouTube, TikTok, X, and Instagram. Check out all the content at the Sideline with a K.